And here we are at another 2020 US TAC tournament match. This time between NohatCoder and Jayhawker. EVRNjayhawker? Not quite sure. We'll call him Jay. So Nohat and Jay here. Nohat playing white, Jay playing black. We see a very unusual start here. We've seen this a few times this tournament, and I keep saying it's unusual, but since it's been done so often, maybe it's not unusual. These pieces placed next to each other, adjacent for the first moves, as opposed to corners, opposite or adjacent corners. We're seeing a strong build up here. None of the pieces are spread out too far. Early capstone from Jay. That's actually really solid positioning because he can capture over and down. They're both playing very quickly, so it's hard for me to keep up with all the action. We're seeing Nohat building, sort of focusing on the vertical build, whereas Jay is just going, I'm going to make the first tag threat going horizontal. Ooh, would we see the capstone come out from Nohat? Now, this is an interesting play because this capstone is here up against a wall, and you typically don't want to place a capstone up against a wall like that because it limits their mobility. But here, since he knows he's just going to use it to capture over anyway, not a problem for him. And now he can continue building his vertical threat on here on the B or the C. Whoops. On the B or the C, and not have to worry too much about where he's going to place this capstone because they both go over. So he goes for the immediate capture, which is interesting. I would have expected him to build more before capturing, but I guess he just doesn't want to isolate his capstone. And we see Jay building along vertically here, also building out behind so he doesn't make a horizontal threat. Now, this is attack threat here from Nohat. If he places here at B1, he wins. So Jay is going to have to either place down here or make a capture. If he does make a capture, he might want to use A6 to cover B6. Huh. That doesn't do what he wants it to do. That just gets immediately recaptured and gives an opportunity for him to recapture this. He'll have to use both of these flats to actually make this move. And he places a wall, and that gives Nohat the win. Oh, Nohat gave him the undo. Very, very nice of him, because he doesn't have to give the undos. That was very sportsmanlike. I imagine Jay saw it immediately after he placed and said, "No, wait, undo." I mean, if it were me, I wouldn't have given him the undo. A win is a win. Come on, man. And so he places the wall down here, stops that threat. We may see C1 or C2 placed here next. However, if he does capture over here on B6, we'll see this top flat move down, but then he captures over with A6, and then he'd have to move both flats up, which would leave an opening here for a wall, maybe, unless Nohat uses his capstone to come up and leave behind pieces so he can come back and spread down, which is probably what he would do. So now we see another tack threat down here at C1. A flat goes in to stop that. And another tack threat. Placing here at D2 or capturing over here onto C1 with the D1 flat. We'll see how Jay responds. He's going to eventually have to respond by capturing B6. There's really no other option he has. Because right here, if he doesn't mess with B6, he's stuck in Tinue. Or something, yeah, that's Tinue basically, unless he captures B6. So he needs to capture over and see what he can do about that. If he does do that, so that's one. I'm trying to count preemptively before it occurs to see if he will be able to pull off a Tinue here. And that captures over. And then if he moves this up So that wouldn't be Tinue if he's able to move. If he moves his capstone up to capture, that's not Tinue. But it is very close. So this is where Nohat has to think. Do I want to push this up here and give him opportunity for a wall, or do I want to? Okay, interesting. He places here instead. Interesting. Now this is not attack threat anymore because black has the opportunity here to reinforce this position. He could place a wall here to capture this stack because he does have a little room to breathe here in that there's no attack threat that he has to respond to immediately. So a wall here would probably be good, or even here, so he could capture this stack and interrupt this flow and release these prisoners. Maybe get himself back in the game with flat count. That would probably be good. Instead, we see D3 played. Now, I can understand that a little bit. I would have understood more of the the capstone coming down to D4, because then he would have had range to throw his capstone down here to interrupt the threat. Okay, here I can definitely see him just capturing over with part of this stack on A6. So 2 B6 to the left to capture that makes a lot of sense because it stops the threat. Yeah, I'm curious about what's going through Nohat's head right here, because this is attack threat that he has to respond to. Hmm. Okay, so he captures over with more. All right, so we just 3 B6 to the left. Yeah, that makes sense also. Now he could take this whole stack and throw it over to cover up C6 because this is again another attack threat. He does that, he can take 4 A6 to the right, 2, and then 2. So, oh, that's interesting. Didn't know if that was a thing. Neat. Learning new things every day. But yeah, this piece would have would basically look the same as this right here. And then this would have 2 white captives with a black on top. And we may be seeing white just replay that over and over and over again. Uh, until it stops being attack threat. Now, because of this space on D3, he could capture over. This gets recaptured by this partial stack, and then that comes down. Yeah, that's what he's doing. He's playing over with this. This will probably capture up. Then we'll see that come down. Or we could even see B2, but he probably won't want to give that wall more freedom to move into his threat. So he goes for the double capture up. Interesting. No longer attack threat. But as soon as he places here or here, it becomes Tinue. Yeah, here or here becomes Tinue, so Jay has to do something here quick. All right, so he made his move. Good one, good wall. He can capture over. Let's see what Nohat does here. Jay is also somebody we haven't seen in previous tournaments, at least that I'm aware of. He's a little new to the competitive tack scene, and maybe to tack itself in general. This is another tack threat here. Right there. Coming right up to the side. And that blocks it off. Will Nohat smash and capture? Who knows? Or will he just build around? But yeah, Jay's pretty new, but he has shown himself to be a pretty strong player. His games that I saw against Fwib were both really solid. He gave Fwib a run for his money on those games, and he played pretty strongly and way above his official playtack ranking, at least in my opinion. And I think Nohat announced it as well. He said that he was definitely playing better than expected based on his playtack unofficial ranking. So for those unfamiliar with the unofficial playtack ranking, it's a system, an ELO-based system designed specifically by NohatCoder, in fact, who is playing right now, that tracks people's games, and he did a big write-up about it that is really technical and beyond me. But based on the unofficial playtack rankings, which were updated just prior to the tournament starting, NohatCoder is ranked in second place of all the humans. First place is an unknown person that seems to have just played one particular bot. Okay, so this is attack threat. He went around. So he just played one particular bot over and over again until he got a really high rating. So probably doesn't count. So Nohat would be first then, and then second place is me. Surprisingly, I don't think I'd belong there, but and then we'll see down here we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Fwib would be in fifth place if we don't count that person in first who just played that one bot over and over again. Okay, so we did see the spread go up to the top. That stops the tack threat. We see a wall come out from Nohat, which is interesting again because he doesn't necessarily need a wall here, but he wants to capture and make that threat of coming down with it. Maybe he expects Jay to not see it, or maybe he just wants to keep that for himself. But Jay doesn't really have any offensive options at this point. He's basically got to just focus on keeping Nohat out of the game and keep Nohat from finishing his very strong road threat here that looks like the number 4. All right, and so we see a response with C1. Okay, so he's trying to make a vertical threat happen. Let's see if Jay notices that this is a tack threat. Leaving one white behind, placing a white here, leaving a white behind here, and then dropping the wall on A4. He did notice, and he's stopping that from happening. Okay. Now, Jay has a little more opportunity at this point. Oh, we see Nohat bring up the whole stack. I was expecting one piece to be left behind. While that would have been solid and helped Jay out with some more road makings here, it would have prevented this from being stopped with a wall. So we may see a wall come out here from Jay. And if we do, that'd be good for him. No, we don't. We see him place at A5 instead. Interesting play. I would not be surprised to see just a flat dropped there. It'd be for not so much to make the threat that he's making here. He's got a two-pronged threat. He can place at B6 where he can throw these flats down. And so Jay saw it. He comes over across with B4 with A4 to cover up B4. Now, how NoHat responds to this is going to be interesting because he could respond to this in a number of ways. He could come down with this wall and spread it out and make his attack threat that way, which could not be stopped up here in the northern half. That move particularly, oh, he moved his capstone instead. So that can be stopped in the north side. Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he can move all of this stack except for the bottom white piece. See a better angle. Yeah, we can see all of them now here. All right, so Jay's got to make some sort of move here that's going to stop this from being attacked there because he can throw this stack down and place here. So he's got to do something, maybe come up here onto C2. Coming up with the wall also does the trick. Now we may see C2 go up to C3. We may see this come over. We may see, okay, we saw the wall come down. So this is another attack threat. Coming up here or going across here would be tack. If he throws this wall over to D2, that'll stop it. If he comes across, that'll stop it very temporarily, but not for any long term, because he'll just place here or place here. Yeah, I don't see how Jay is going to end up getting out of this. Like it's not Tinuay at this point, but it's so heavily in NoHat's favor that Jay is going to be scrambling to catch up. And it's been that way for a while, but this particular move is going to be very tough to compete with because he's got this multi-directional threat and he's got to cut off this anchor point. And the anchor point is connected by this. So these two pieces are the vulnerable ones. I think his best move might be throwing this wall across. And that doesn't stop the threat, and NoHat takes the win by coming up or coming over, capturing on C3. Comes over. So that is game one going to NohatCoder in white. Jay actually put up a pretty solid fight against potentially our number one player, although it looks like Fwib might be taking this tournament. We'll see how it turns out because this match and the next match, which I believe are the final matches of the tournament, and the next match is tomorrow, they determine the first and second rankings. So if NoHat wins both of these and Fwib splits his match against Orphane, the currently number 3 player in the tournament, then they have to do a playoff blitz tournament, a blitz match, NoHat and Fwib. So that would be exciting. But if Fwib wants to win and avoid that, he has to win both of his games against Orphane. Anyway, back to this game. NoHat does a good job of controlling this game and keeping this vertical threat going the whole time. Let's go back to the beginning. Very unorthodox start that I'm sure NoHat is unused to playing with. But he does pretty well controlling here and then eventually isolating the capstone of black. Because there's not much that he can do in that regard. Yeah, it was just solid all around because he saw where Jay was going and was able to cut it off quick. Okay, so now we see game 2 open. And here's NoHat and Jay. Jay placing in the corner, and we see adjacent corners. NoHat decided to keep it a little bit more traditional in this one because he doesn't want to mess around with that weird opening again. All right, we see the initial mirror move, and then We see NoHat going off for the immediate cutoff. Will we see him place here? Yeah, we will see him place there. So Jay's still building into this stair step, which is interesting. He's not doing anything. No capstone here, which is a pretty solid move for white in this regard because it has those two opportunities to capture and goes for both directions. Instead, we see white start to play up, and black makes his capstone placement here to interrupt that threat. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see NoHat play up here at c6 to stop a flat from going up here and making more of a cohesive threat vertically. But we do see white building this very strong vertical threat. Okay, so he places off to the side to give himself more of a horizontal avenue. Okay, that makes sense, because he can come down now with his c5 flat, or go up with his capstone. Okay. Interesting. Now, will we see a capstone placement from white? He could place here or here. Those are both fine opportunities for his capstone. I wouldn't really want to do this one because it would basically trap his own cap. But placing here with a capstone would be pretty good for white, I think. And that might be where black places his next flat, because that makes this connection for a horizontal road without having to capture. No, he goes straight for it instead. Now we see the capstone come out from white. Will black just continue and place here at f5 and make his first attack threat of the game? I can see it happening that way. I could also see him capturing up. Maybe he'll place it d2 first so he can make a two-pronged threat going down and up. Places here at f5 and makes that first attack threat. So capturing down or capturing up onto this a5 is going to be attack. Okay, and so we see white capture down and then black immediately dropping a wall. Now that's an interesting play, and NoHat does play with walls pretty aggressively. He used them very offensively when he plays. And I think we're going to see that here is where he really wants to come down, capture this stack, and then free the black captive underneath it so he can continue making his road threat. Now, if he is able to capture here with the wall and then capture up, that's a Tinue. And so he probably wants to do that. Maybe he'll capture down first or capture up first. It's hard to say. But one of those two things is going to happen. And I think he's looking for that Tinue to be able to move off of this stack with the wall to make final Tinue. And so he's got to think ahead. Okay, if I move the wall down first, what's he going to do? If I move this flat first, what's he going to do? Now, what NoHat doesn't want to happen here is he doesn't want this white capstone to come over onto c4 and smash that wall, because that would cut off basically his entire horizontal threat, and it would be a really solid move from white to be able to smash that wall. So I think that's the best move here for Jay, is for Jay to move his capstone from b4 over here to c4. It also is attack threat. Ooh, that's nice. Yeah, I didn't even see that. So instead, he did not. He captured over with b6 to a6. Okay. And then we see that flat come up. And then that come over. Okay. So if NoHat wants to capture this stack, he can't leave behind a white flat here. Okay, so he brings over the whole stack. Now, white might want to just move his capstone up to a blank spot. That's typically not a good move. You want to be able to make some sort of flat count advantage, capture a piece, something like that, or give yourself a hard capstone But if he is allowed to move this stack back and leaving behind a black piece and leaving his capstone here, that is the game. That is Tinue. Black will win. So he's got to place a wall here or move his capstone up. Those are his two options. We'll see if he notices his predicament here. Ooh, great shot. Okay. Throw up the wall here because he knows that throwing that down would be Tinue, so he puts the wall up here instead saying, yeah, I know what you're going to do. I can just throw a wall down and block your road threat anyway. Smart move, and one that I didn't think of. All right, we see a flat come down for black, making the attack threat anyway. Even though now it can be blocked by both moving the capstone up and moving the wall down. Capstone goes up. If he smashes this, that makes a great threat. Black knew that, and so he was getting rid of that really quick. Does not want to give him any more traction there. So white makes this attack threat here, probably the wall coming over. If he does that, this capstone is going to come down and crush it, gaining 3. Oh no, he can't crush it because that would be a win for black. So he can definitely move this wall stack here onto B3 because throwing the capstone down to smash would leave behind a black piece here, which would help complete the road. But initially I was thinking, oh, that's a terrible idea because then he would give all those capstones, give all those flatstones away. Instead, black comes down, does not make attack threat, but he comes over and improves his flat count just a tiny bit. I believe that was a +3 flat move. Yep, +3 flat move. No attack threat here from either player. I do still think that moving this wall over would have been the best choice. Okay, so white connects with B6 to make the attack threat. Black immediately comes over with his capstone, which creates attack threat here. This coming over, if he throws the capstone, lands it here onto B4, that is attack. Okay, so white sees it, gets rid of that threat. How will black respond? Now black can respond just by placing here. That's probably not what he wants to do. He captures up. Another attack threat. This time, the wall needs to come down or this capstone needs to move because those are the only two moves that he can do to stop it. The capstone does come down. Now he's threatening to capture this stack and this stack, both solid stacks for him because he gets a white captive here and 2 white captives here. That was probably the ideal move for white in that situation. I would not be surprised to see black transition now to a vertical road threat. Okay, he moves his stack down saying, I don't want you to capture that stack. That's too strong. Let's think of something else. Now, interestingly, he could set himself up to capture over with this wall and then smash it himself for a threat going this direction, which would be interesting. Not Tinue or anything, but it would be a very interesting play. Yep, so it looks like he is going for this horizontal threat here, and it also builds for a vertical threat. So that was a solid move playing at d2. White sees it, doesn't want anything to do with it. Maybe black will just play here at d1, force that wall to come down. Or for a capture over here. Yeah, so he does play at d1, giving him an opportunity for a wall here. This is another tack threat for black. Black really pushing the game right now, controlling the momentum. White bringing that wall down onto d5 to stop it. Black just saying, okay, I'll build around. Building here at e4, completes that connection. All right, so let's see if he brings his wall down more. Maybe he'll bring it one piece, or maybe he'll throw the wall to cover up this spot, which would be a stronger... Oh, he missed the threat. That's a win for Nohat. Nohat might be asking if it was a misclick, but he takes the win. So Nohat wins both of his games. That puts him at 24 in the tournament, which is currently first place. Fwib has yet to play his match for this round. He is at 22 points, and it's 2 points per game. So, 2 games per match. Too much math going on. If Fwib wins one of his 2 games against Orphane, Fwib and Nohat will have a Blitz playoff match. If Fwib wins both of his games against Orphane, then Fwib wins, Nohat takes second, and someone else will take third. Don't know who yet. So first place in this tournament is a beautiful set of, I believe, marble and granite tack pieces, which when I saw, I drooled a little bit over and wish I had entered the tournament. And then the second place are also another beautiful set of tack pieces, but these are wooden, but very, very nice and beautiful looking. And third place is the metal hawk and wolf capstones from World Builders, and those are also very fun. I have a couple of those, and they are very nice. So, we have seen this match here from NohatCoder and Jayhawker. NohatCoder was victorious in both of these games. Solid games, great play from Jayhawker. We typically, I did not expect him to do this well based on his rating, so we may have to revisit that whole unofficial playtack ranking here, Nohat. Maybe you need to update the code, or maybe we just need to play a little bit more tournaments and have official rankings this time. Anyway, that is Simmon signing off, and I will come back to see you for the Fwib versus Orphane match. Adios, folks.